Hey folks, Riley Evans here from the Ocho. I'm here today with a news update surrounding the situation around Jon Jones, the UFC light heavyweight champion, and his reported failed drug test on July 28th, which was collected on the weigh-in before his UFC 214 fight against Daniel Cormier for the light heavyweight championship. Now, as most of you probably know, Jon Jones tested positive for turinabol, which is an anabolic steroid, on the drug test for the sample collected on the weigh-in night, which was July 28th. So it's come out today that Jon Jones actually tested clean, so negative, of all banned substances on a drug test on July 29th, only 24 hours after that initial failed test on the July 28th weigh-in, so on his post-fight test. This being the case, let's run down the timeline. So according to Ariel Helwani, the renowned mixed martial arts and UFC journalist, Jon Jones tested negative, so he passed his drug test on July 6th and 7th, which were urine tests, and July 29th was a blood test, and he passed that as well. The test that he failed, which was a urine test on July 28th, was the night before the fight. Now, it is important to say that turinabol usually only shows up in urine tests, although it has been seen to show up in drug tests before. That being the case, the Jones camp is saying that any positive test or any substances that may or may not be banned by USADA could only have been present in his system due to tainted supplements, and USADA has found turinabol in supplements in the past. So as much as we might want to immediately say that there's no way that Mr. Tainted Cialis pill could get that unlucky twice in a row, it is possible. So I think the bottom line of this whole situation is two things. One, there was a lot of people, myself included, that on initially hearing the news that Jon Jones had tested positive, jumped off the bandwagon and said we weren't fans anymore. I'm retracting that now. Even though we don't know definitively whether or not he tested positive, I think it's more than fair to say that he should be afforded his due process. So that's important there. The second is that right now we're waiting for one more pin to drop, and that's the B sample. The second sample collected on July 28th for the weigh-in. Now, for those of you who don't know, every single USADA drug test where a fighter submits one sample, they're also entitled to submit a second sample, a B sample, that will be tested in the case that they test positive in the first sample and they'd like to appeal it. So we're waiting on the results of the B sample test right now, which are going to take a number of weeks. It's been less than 2 weeks since the initial positive test was announced. So it could only have been then that Jon Jones requested that the B sample be tested. So there's a number of tests it undergoes. It's a lengthy process that takes several weeks. So we might not hear more about this till the end of the month. But this entire situation hinges around that B sample. If the B sample tests positive, then it's probably just a situation of the turinabol not showing up in the bloodstream, as it usually doesn't. And then we can go ahead and conclude reasonably well that he was guilty and he did indeed have turinabol in his system. In which case, we have to go into, testing all the supplements and stuff, seeing if there was actually any validity to that theory. And if the supplements all test negative, then, I guess he's caught red-handed. But if the B test comes up negative, clean of turinabol, then we have to start asking some really tough questions about how this stuff got into the A sample in the first place. Now, I don't want to jump into conspiracy theories or anything because it is clearly way too early, but the bottom line is that this situation is far from over, and it's going to take a number of twists and turns before we get to its conclusion, as today's announcement by Ariel Helwani has said. Because there's something to be said about failing a drug test one day and then passing one 24 hours later, regardless of whether or not it usually only shows up in urine as opposed to blood. Anyways, that was the mixed martial arts update I have for you today. You folks take care. You would check out, please, the Ocho Facebook page, like us, share some of our content, check out theocho.ca. It's got a number of different great written materials and a direct link to our podcast page, which houses all of the Ocho Podcast Network. Other than that, I'll see you soon.